everybody, it's your friendly digital technology librarian, Christy here, and we have reached the end of yet another week. So of course you know what that means. We have another Film Rec Friday for you and another set of really excellent recommendations all ready to go. So this week we are going to focus in on films that are sure to get your pulse pounding. They're exciting, they're thrilling, they're mysteries and suspense films, and I tried to pick a pretty broad range like always. So we've got a lot of movies from all different time periods, focusing on different kinds of characters, and I'm hoping that you will find one that's perfect for you and your weekend. Um, as always, all of these recommendations are available to you completely for free with the use of your Milan-Berlin library card via one of our 3 video services, which are, as always, CleveNet's Overdrive, Hoopla Digital, and Canopy. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get to those recs. Let's go ahead and kick things off with recommendations from CleveNet's Overdrive, and the first of those is going to be a film called Before the Devil Knows You're Dead. Now, Before the Devil Knows You're Dead is one of those films that kind of defies classification. It is, of course, as all of the films this week are, a suspense thriller. But it's also a bit of a family drama. Many of the plot lines are really propelled forward by these complex and multi-layered relationships that these characters have. And yes, of course, you've got the overarching plot going on, but it's these relationships that really give depth to the story itself. You've got an extraordinary cast put together. You've got Philip Seymour Hoffman really in the main role. He plays Andy. His brother Hank is played by Ethan Hawke. Their parents are played by Rosemary Harris and Albert Finney. I mean, these are all veteran performers, and each one of them does an extraordinary job with the role they're given. So Andy and Hank are both in somewhat financially difficult moments of their lives. They decide that they're going to rob their parents' jewelry store, and from that point on, things just kind of snowball when the robbery attempt goes awry. It's exciting, it's thrilling, it's surprising in a lot of places. I mean, usually these kinds of films have a plot trajectory that you can really sort of figure out as you go along, but there are many moments where I was genuinely shocked by what was going on screen. You know, those kinds of times when you're like, did I just see that? What? Um and I really enjoy movies like that, especially when they're so anchored by excellent acting as this one is. So if you're looking for a mystery thriller that will definitely kind of keep you guessing as to what's going to happen next, and that has excellent acting, you definitely need to check out Before the Devil Knows You're Dead. Exceptional film, and available on CleveNet's Overdrive. My other recommendation from Overdrive for this week is a film called Headhunters. Now, Headhunters is based on a novel by the Norwegian author Jo Nesbø, and it is one of those movies that I got into primarily because I was familiar with one of the actors. I didn't even realize it was a Jo Nesbø based film at the time. If you're a fan or were a fan of Game of Thrones, then you're probably familiar with Nikolai Coster-Waldau, who played Jaime Lannister. Coster-Waldau is one of the main characters within Headhunters, and again, that's why I decided to watch it. That just happens to be a lot. But the film itself is really excellent. I was so surprised how much I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. The story follows a character named Roger, not played by Nikolai Coster-Waldau, who is this sort of very charming, incredibly successful headhunter. He recruits for all of these big companies, and he also happens to be a very accomplished art thief, something I was not expecting. He targets some of these people that he's headhunting, and is very good at stealing from them without their ever knowing. He replaces the things he steals with forgeries. And, he's been doing this for a very, very, very long time. He has a life that he loves, a beautiful, successful wife, a mistress on the side. He knows his situation very well and knows how to keep himself in that situation until he meets Nikolai Coster-Waldau's character. And that's when things really go off the rails. So he is theoretically going to recruit Coster-Waldau's character into a major, major securities firm. He ends up having doubts as to whether or not Coster-Waldau's character is having an affair with his wife, and definitely makes sure that he does not get recruited to this very big, very influential company. And it's at that point that things go crazy in the movie. I mean, we're talking like weird special forces kind of tactics. It's very fast paced, and it has a lot of surprising twists and turns. It's one of those movies that was just so entertaining while I was watching it that it just went by in the blink of an eye. And I was completely floored by a lot of things that were going on, mainly because it's very good at misdirection. So you'll be paying attention to this one thread of the story, and then these things that happened ages before will suddenly become pertinent. It's just really, really fascinating and really well put together. Very tense throughout. I mean, you will 100% be on the edge of your seat. So if you're into that kind of a movie, you like tense thrillers, very quick paced, with really intricate plots, very solid acting, you 100% should check out Headhunters. It is a Norwegian film, so there are subtitles, but it is still well worth the watch, even if you're not a big fan of subtitles. I cannot recommend it enough. So please do check out Headhunters, also on CleveNet's Overdrive. Okay, moving on to our second set of recommendations, which are all from Hoopla Digital. The first of which is for a film called A Most Violent Year, and this movie is one of those tense races against time. You're absolutely on the edge of your seat, and you 100% feel that urgency. That character needs to reach a deadline or else. And it's led by Oscar Isaac, who's an exceptional actor. And the cast also includes performances from Jessica Chastain, from Alessandro Nivola. I mean, it's just a really, really well acted film, in addition to being one of those movies that 100% grips you really from the very get-go. So A Most Violent Year is kind of a recent period piece in that it takes place in the early 1980s New York, and it focuses in on the heating fuel industry, which I admittedly know absolutely nothing about, but heating oil was apparently a really competitive field at that particular time, at least. And Oscar Isaac's character ends up having to deal with a great deal of difficulties due to the highly competitive nature of this industry. So his employees are being accosted, his product is being stolen when in transit, so he's got thousands and thousands of dollars in deficit. He needs to figure out a way to beat his competitors. And when he kind of thinks of a solution, he ends up getting an even tighter money bind. It's one of those things where the situation snowballs, and it snowballs very fast. It's definitely the kind of movie you want to watch when you want to be tense. Don't watch it for a relaxing evening in, but it's so exciting and it's so interesting and it's really so well acted. I mean, the acting is really, really phenomenal. So if you're looking for a movie that will definitely get your pulse racing, that will have you under the edge of your seat, check out A Most Violent Year. It is 100% one of the highlights of the films that I was able to check out for this week. Excellent, excellent, and definitely recommended. My next Hoopla digital recommendation is for an oldie but a goodie, a film called Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. Now, I saw this movie years and years and years ago when I think I was in a film class in college, and I remember thinking, this movie is insane. And I felt the exact same way 20 years down the line. It features performances from two of the biggest golden era Hollywood actresses, Betty Davis and Joan Crawford, as these very much aging actresses. And they do horrible things to each other. Like, horrible. And they're siblings. They're siblings. It's like Gypsy gone terribly, terribly awry, if you know the plot to Gypsy. Anyway, Betty Davis plays the titular character Jane, and her sister Blanche is played by Joan Crawford. Jane starts out the film in their childhood as the big star. She's a huge child star, so popular, and is definitely, she definitely knows it. She treats her sister Blanche like Blanche is absolutely nothing. She's dirt, in the way that kids do. It's not like, I don't think it's initially malicious, but it's definitely like, I'm the favored child kind of attitude about things. Anyway, as time goes on and they grow older, that particular form of acting is no longer, in style, and so she loses all of her popularity. Blanche, however, becomes this big celebrated actress. Um, that turn, of course, causes a whole lot of other issues. And results in a dire situation, and Blanche ends up paralyzed as a result of everything. Now, years and years on, the two of them are sort of trapped together, living this horribly sad, tragic life together, that is mutually abusive, that is just wretched, a wretched existence. And that is when things go crazy. It's definitely a film of its time, but it still feels kind of fabulously fresh at the same time. I mean, the storyline is something that you could see written today. The acting is definitely stylized because you're dealing with these kinds of performers, because you're dealing with characters that are from a very different time era. But the story itself really, really is something that will be, gripping no matter what, and no matter what time you're watching it at. So if you're looking for, again, a bit of a family drama, but also something that is crazy off the rails, intense in places, that is kind of horribly tragic in others, and that definitely is suspenseful, check out the classic Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. It is a really, really fascinating film that I think everybody should see at least once. Another recommendation from Hoopla Digital is for the film Remember. Now, Remember is both suspenseful and mysterious, and really, really sad in a lot of places. I mean, it's amazingly well acted. The lead actor is Christopher Plummer, who is just such an extraordinary performer. And I've never honestly seen him in something that I haven't thought, wow, that's just incredible. And this film is no different. Christopher Plummer's character is a widower who is struggling with dementia, and he is constantly reminded of his need for revenge against a horrible SS officer who, during the Holocaust, killed his whole family. He's reminded of this by a fellow survivor played by Martin Landau, who was also an extraordinary actor. Um, Plummer's character is egged into this sort of vengeance quest against this former Nazi who is responsible for the deaths of his family. And the problem is, because of the dementia, he really has no recollection of what or who he's looking for. He can only be aided by these snippets given to him by Landau's character, and and bits and pieces of his failing memory. Now, films that deal with the slow descent into dementia in general, I find very affecting, and really, really so tragic and moving to begin with. Let's take away like this vengeance film thriller element to begin with. You're also dealing with a recent widower who is obviously grieving. You're dealing with layers of sort of historic grief on top of that from his issues with the period of time and with the Holocaust. I mean, it's one of those films that keeps hitting you, and it is so full of twists and turns. I mean, it it just the twists and turns will 100% hit you. I mean, they absolutely hit me. So if you're looking for something incredibly affecting, very much moving and sad, and just really honestly tragic in places, but that's also really, really well done and beautifully acted, absolutely beautifully acted, check out Remember. It's an extraordinarily well done film. I mean, I can't say enough good things about it. Remember, available on Hoopla Digital. My last rec from Hoopla Digital is for a film that I was kind of surprised that I enjoyed as much as I did, and it's called The Guest. Now, The Guest is one of those suspense thrillers that kind of has a little bit of callback to the 90s. I don't know, there's something very 90s about it to me. Um, and it features a performance from Dan Stevens, who is an actor who's probably most well known for his role in Downton Abbey, Matthew Crawley, and he also played the Beast in the recent live action Beauty and the Beast. Uh, but he is one of the primary characters. He is our central mysterious drifter who comes into this family's life. The family has recently dealt with the loss of their eldest son, and this gentleman that they don't know is supposedly familiar with the son who was lost during the conflict in Afghanistan. And at first, this mysterious drifter seems to be totally on the up and up. He helps the different family members with things that are going wrong in their lives. I mean, he seems like a genuinely excellent guy. Until little things start creeping in, different parts of his storyline, different parts of other people's storylines, it's like this gentle erosion of a character. And you don't really know exactly what's going to happen next. You don't know, is he a legit soldier that the brother did know? Was he friends with the brother? Is everything true? Is everything a lie? And it does a very good job of keeping you invested in the storyline. And again, I was surprised by how well I felt everything worked together, because again, I was thinking it was going to it kind of reminded me of the plots of some of those Lifetime movies from the 90s that I'd seen, and so I was like, whatever, it'll kill a couple of hours, but it was actually really, really good. So if you're looking for something very smart, very quick, that will definitely entertain you, The Guest, also available on Hoopla. Excellent film. Excellent choice. Okay, my last two recommendations are, of course, from our Canopy service, and the first of those is David Fincher's Zodiac. Pause. Zodiac has only recently been added to the collection along with a ton of other really excellent films. So if you haven't been to Canopy recently, please do visit and check out all of those new titles. I guarantee you will find something that you'll find interesting. I digress. Onward back to the recommendations. As I was saying, my recommendation is for David Fincher's Zodiac, and the film follows the 1960s and 70s serial killer who absolutely terrorized San Francisco. So it is based on a true situation, but of course is heavily, heavily fictionalized, and is anchored by an extraordinarily good cast. You've got Jake Gyllenhaal, Robert Downey Jr., Anthony Edwards, Mark Ruffalo, John Carroll Lynch. I mean, the list is really, really packed full of phenomenal, phenomenal actors. Anyway, so the film follows the serial killer, known as the Zodiac Killer. And what was fascinating about this murderer at the time was that he very much was into taunting the police and the city itself by asking people to try and figure out who he was. You know, he would send these little ciphers to the newspaper in order to get the paper to publish and have people try and figure out. You know, he'd have little clues left behind. And that, I think, added to the terror of the situation. So this film follows that interplay. You've got characters looking at the situation through the eyes of the police. You've got characters looking at the situation through the eyes of the journalists. It's a very layered, tightly woven plot. And all of these characters have major investment in figuring out who it is, but obviously have very, very different ways of going about solving the mystery of who is the Zodiac Killer. You know, the film, like I said, does fictionalize elements, but at no point do you feel like, oh, this is so unbelievable. It definitely feels like these things could happen, that these interactions could be real, you know, and I find films like that so much more effective simply because, you know, if I believe the mystery, if I believe, you know, that these things were definitely hit points in trying to solve the situation, because of course the Zodiac Killer was never officially found. When you have a film that follows a real situation that you can actively believe in its fictionalized film, you know, I think that makes it so much more effective. So if you're looking for something really dark, really gritty, that is absolutely going to pull you into the story and the mystery, please do check out Zodiac from David Fincher. It's on Canopy, and it is really an excellent, excellent movie. My final recommendation is for a movie called I Saw the Devil. And now this is a Korean language film, so of course there are subtitles, but again, as always with these recommendations, it is totally worth the subtitle even if you don't enjoy subtitled films. This is one of the darkest, grittiest films I've seen in a very long time. It is definitely hard to watch in some places, but it is so well done. I mean, it's very fast paced, it's gritty, it's painful, it is absolutely gripping, and it's one of those kind of cat and mouse films that is thoroughly unexpected because the cat and the mouse are not who you thought they were going to be. I think that's what I found so fascinating about this film, that it was not at all what I was expecting. I'd watched the trailers, I'd read the synopsis, and it was absolutely not that, but not in a way that made anything misleading at all. And that was very interesting to me. So the film follows a character that I'm trying to think of how to describe him. A character you would think of as a cat in a cat and a mouse story. He's a serial killer. He has done terrible, terrible things for years and years and years. He lives a mild mannered life as a taxi driver when the reality is he's a complete and utter monster. I mean, he doesn't just kill people, he kills people. And he's just horrible. But he murders the wife of a very well trained intelligence officer and is suddenly no longer a cat, is suddenly very much a mouse. And that is the turn of the story that I found so gripping, mainly because it happens at the beginning of the movie. It's not a surprise. I mean, I'd only watched a couple of trailers which did not allude to this twist, I suppose, at all. So when it happened, I was just like, what is going on? It was definitely unexpected, and a really pleasant is not a word I would ever use to describe this movie in any way, shape, or form, but I suppose a welcome surprise, really. Uh, and what continues to keep you tied in to these characters is sort of the nature of the cat and mouse game that they play. You know, the intelligence officer is strictly on a vengeance quest. He knows that nothing can end well. He's already lost his fiance to this murderer. So he ultimately just wants this guy to pay in the most painful way possible. So he continually catches this monster and lets him go. The thing that makes it so difficult to watch is that this monster continues to do monstrous things every time he's let go. So you're feeling all of the guilt that this devastated, grieving man should be feeling. And I was surprised by how bothered I was, how caught up in that emotion I was throughout the whole movie. Um, and I think that's kind of the point, that we're supposed to feel all of this external emotional distress that characters in the film are not feeling, that they should be feeling. Um, and it just gets more and more intense as you go on. I don't know that you ever feel for the monster, the devil, but you do sort of start to get really tense every time you know he's going to get recaptured. When is it going to be the last time? Is there going to be a last time? Is he going to be able to outwit this intelligence officer, or will the story just progress and his end come about? We don't know, and that's really the crux of this film. Um, who and the other questions become like, who's the real monster? You know, it does make you ask that question, because the intelligence officer does really lose track of his own humanity because he's caught in this, miasma of grief, brought about by this serial killer. So yes, very complicated, dark, gritty movie, but so gripping and so well performed and really well written. I mean, it's just an excellent movie. If you like dark, if you like gritty, gruesome, conflicted films, uh, definitely check out I Saw the Devil. it's one that I won't forget anytime soon, and I don't think you will either. So those are my picks for the week. If I have missed your favorite thriller or mystery and you want to share your opinions, please, please, please comment below. Let people know what you're watching. Let people know what they should be watching. If you have recommendations for me for themes in the future, I really would love to hear those as well. So, with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off and wish everyone an excellent week, and I will see you next Friday. Bye.